Okay, so on that front, I had worked for 35 years for Procter & Gamble in sales and customer marketing, and knew I was going to retire in 2014 after 35 years. In 2009, we had moved back to the United States from 18 years abroad, and that's a whole nother set of stories. But baseball was my passion. I love all sports, but baseball was my passion. So in 2009, when we came back to the States, I started asking questions of baseball people. How do you get into this business? Because I knew in 5 years I was going to retire and I'd be ready to do something in baseball. I said I would take tickets for the Lakeland Tigers, anything to get me into the ballpark.
Wow.
So I started asking questions and meeting people, and they would introduce me to somebody else, and I would spend an hour or two on the phone with them, and started to build a little bit of a network. I found out that the way most people find out about these things is word of mouth, but brokers around the country match buyers and sellers. So I contacted one of the better known brokers, W.B. Grimes, and called him and said, I'm Bob fregolle, blah, blah, blah. In 5 years, I'm going to be interested in getting into baseball. So I don't need anything now, but how does that work? And so I developed a little bit of a relationship with one of their account people. And I said, now look, I'm going to call you every year just so you don't forget where I'm at and who I am. And I did, 2010, 2011, 12, 13. And then in the late fall of 2013, when my announcement was going to be made, definitively stating that I was retiring in June of 14, I called them and said, I'm ready. I'm serious. And for the next 5 or 6 months, they sent me opportunities based on some parameters that I had given them. I wanted to be active. I didn't want to be silent. I've got all this sales and marketing and people experience. I didn't know anything, so I needed to be with somebody who was a good teacher, right? And I needed it to be someplace that was relatively convenient to get to. So these opportunities started coming across the desk, and 5 or 6 of them didn't work. They didn't fit for one reason or another. And then I got a call on Daytona. And the gentleman who was putting the deal together to try to buy the Cubs was a gentleman by the name of Reese Smith, and he fit my perfect image of who I was looking for as a managing partner. He had 35 years of owning baseball clubs, family, multi-generational baseball family, prince of a man. And so I said, yes, I'd be interested in this. And it was arranged that we would meet on the phone. And he interviewed me, and I was interviewing him. And we hit it off great. And I became then his first partner in what was going to be a very limited number of people that would propose and try to buy the Cubs. And we, that year, that was March, maybe February of 2014, and we closed in June. But that's when we consummated the deal. But in the fall, while it was still the Cubs announced that they were moving to Myrtle Beach. And being the rookie, I didn't know what that meant. I thought, oh my gosh, there goes my dream. There goes Daytona. Yeah. And they said, no, this is the way it works. Major League Baseball and minor league baseball will work to put another team here in Daytona with whoever ultimately buys this club. And we waited a couple weeks after the Cubs announced that they were going to move, and the Cincinnati Reds announced that they were going to move their Bakersfield, California to Daytona. And my family went crazy because we live in Cincinnati, and it was a perfect fit. So that's how that whole connection got made.
Wow.
Yeah. So here under this pavilion, I think it was June 6th, June 4th of 2015, we had the press release, and here we are.
And I guessed at what might have happened.
Yeah.
But I never imagined that you were actually looking for a team. I imagined that somehow you heard the story floating around Cincinnati.
No.
Yeah.
No. And actually, my dates were a little bit off. We started negotiating in the summer of 14 and consummated the deal last spring, last summer. So, but that really was a 9 to 12 month process, 15-month process from the time I called Reese to the time we ended up in Daytona. It took a long time.
The thing that I don't understand is, what were you buying when you say that the Cubs were for sale? The Cubs weren't really for sale, right? I mean, and did they know at the time that you were having this dialogue that they were going to move, or?
No, I think when we first started talking with the previous owner of this franchise, the Cubs, I don't know if they knew they were moving, but we were buying this franchise. You know, so the way baseball works is the players and the managers and the coaches, et cetera, are all under contract with the major league club.
Yes.
The local owners basically own the theater. We own the show. And so all of that, the player development part of it, we really don't have any influence or touch.
Right.
And so we don't control who goes where and what but what we do own is the fan experience here at the ballpark. We run ticketing, promotions, sponsorships, food and beverage, stadium operations.
How close did you look at Daytona before you decided you were interested?
Oh, well,
I mean, if it would have been one of these lonely places that has no audience, would you have turned it down?
Not necessarily. I mean, I did my due diligence.
So lucky.
Well, we're very lucky. I mean, coming out of the Midwest, like many of us, we had connections to Florida since we were little kids. And, my grandparents had a place down at Fort Lauderdale for years, and we would visit them. And my father-in-law has business interests in Florida. My wife's grandparents retired to St. Petersburg. So we had this connection. So Florida had, and this is where we plan on ending up when we finally, retire, right? So, so that was appealing to me. So I did my research. I love the history of Daytona baseball. I mean, there aren't a lot of places that have history like we have. And this is, 100-year history, not 20 or 30 or 40.
Absolutely.
The fact that they've been playing baseball on this island since 1914 is pretty cool. The fact that the stadium was built in 1930 is pretty cool. The fact that Jackie Robinson on March 17, 1946 stepped up to that plate, and broke the color barrier in professional baseball is pretty cool. So that was really appealing to me. I love that stuff. And it's pretty easy to get to, West Coast teams I wasn't very interested in that because it's a day to get out there and a day to get back. And if I'm going to be active, I want to be here. So that's why I'm here every month and loving it. And it's easy to get to, and gosh, the fans are great.
From what I know about you, I think Daytona's very lucky to have you.
Well, I don't know if I would go that far.
Well, I'm willing. That's all I'm saying.
I appreciate it.
It has been really fun to.
Based on my extensive professional baseball experience, all of a season and a half, I've got a lot to learn, and I know in some areas just enough to be dangerous and make some mistakes, but. I tell everybody here, if we make a mistake, we can correct it. And,
well, you're growing into this instead of imagining it as a stepping stone to something bigger.
Yeah, no. I mean, this is, I'm really happy. And I can't imagine, adding other clubs, interest in clubs, because I'm all in Daytona. I can't imagine not being 100% into this scene. So I'm really happy here. And my family's happy here. They love coming down and seeing the games.
How long till you end up here? Will you be here permanently at some point?
Yeah, but and I don't know where in Florida we'll end up. We've always had a interest to come here, but that's maybe 3 to 5 years down the road. Taking care of parents and that kind of stuff means I need to stick around the Midwest. I'm the only child that's, within 20 minutes of my mom and dad, so that's my job.
Did you end up with 2 owners? Are there 2 owners?
There's
now?
3 owners.
3 owners.
Reese Smith is the
Reese
principal
Smith.
owner, the managing partner, if you will.
Oh, you said you used that word, managing partner. What does that mean?
He's the one that put the deal together and has sort of overall decision rights for the partnership, and so all final financial decisions go through Reese, for example. But he works full time. He's a home builder. We have another partner, Rick French, who is a media marketing company owner and a guru on that front. He's also got a full-time job. So, I'm the one that is down here a lot and doing more of the day-to-day stuff with Josh
right?
Lawther and the team. And
Do they have a title for you? Do you have a title in that?
No. I mean,
managing makes it sound like maybe someone else is doing some other
yeah.
description, but you're telling
Yeah,
me
no. I mean,
day-to-day.
I think of myself as more the operational guy,
Okay.
more involved in the day-to-day stuff, because I have the time.
You seem to like people from what I
Oh yeah. I've spent 35 years in sales, so
Yeah.
if I didn't, I wasn't going to make a very good salesperson. So, no, I mean I love it. I love talking to the fans. I spend most of my time talking to people in the stands.
I've seen you talking to people.
Yeah.
So then we get to talk. If you have time, I'm really attracted to the story of baseball in China or whatever foreign country you would call it.
Okay, well, there was a lot of baseball before China. So I mean, I grew up in Detroit, Michigan. I played baseball nonstop from the time I can remember until I was about 20. I did a lot of other sports. Back then, you weren't so specialized.
Right.
You played football in the fall. I wrestled in the winter. And I played baseball and ran track in the spring. But baseball has always been my passion and my love. And so, from the sandlots of Detroit up through, organized T-ball and the Little League experience and Pony and Colt and American Legion ball and then, high school ball, of course. And my first college that I went to, I played baseball there. I blew my knees out, and that pretty much ended any aspirations beyond college. And went to the University of Michigan, did not play baseball there, but got a business degree and then started work for P&G. But then 10 years later, we moved out of the country. In 1991, we moved to Warsaw, Poland. We had 2 babies. And among many things I wanted to teach them, baseball was one of them, which is not easy in a foreign country, although you'd be surprised at how much baseball's played.
This?
Well, that was 91, and then in 1994, we moved to Frankfurt, Germany, and that's when Hannah, our daughter, and Bobby, our son, started playing baseball. They played T-ball in Frankfurt. And a year later, we moved to Brussels, and they have a wonderful sports program in Brussels for expat kids and local kids. So they continued to play baseball in Brussels, and I was their coach, in every team that they played on.
Was the military involved in this?
They were. The whole U.S. military and all of the governmental people that are there for us were a big part of why we had such a good sports program. So they continued to play baseball, and then we moved to Geneva, Switzerland, and there was a league in Switzerland. Been there for a lot of years, and Hannah and Bobby continued to play baseball in Switzerland. I continued to coach them. And then I got the call that Procter & Gamble wanted us to move to China. And my first question was, is there baseball in China? I swear. And they said no. So I promptly ordered 2 sets of team equipment to be shipped to Geneva.
2 teams.
2 teams worth, that would go with our shipment to China. So among everything else, two big bags of baseball equipment to field 2 teams. I figured at least I could get some kids that would play Saturday someplace. That was my idea.
Did you pay for this?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So we showed up in China, started, the expat scene in
Yeah.
South China, and in the first fall there, that would have been 2000. That would have been 2000. I found that there was enough interest to try to craft a league. So we had 94 kids show up for our first full season in 2001.
Uh-huh.
And the age ranges on these teams were pretty wide.
Oh, yeah.
We played in a university field, just an open field.
Okay.
And I think we had 3 leagues with 2 teams in each league. So they just played each other all the time. Well, anyway, long story short, the next year, through a connection we were able to get on the Olympic complex. It was built for the Asian Games through a connection with Beijing and the Minister of Sports. And we were able to play on the diamond, the baseball diamond and the softball diamonds that were built for the Asian Games.
What is the Asian Games is different than the Olympics?
It's like the Pan Am Games
Yes.
games here. Well, the Asian countries have their own Asian Games, and Guangzhou hosted that. And they built 2 magnificent stadiums for softball and baseball. So our second year, we're playing in these stadiums, and I think maybe the next year we had 150, 170 kids playing.
Second year?
Second year, and we had games going on in the outfield while we were playing in the infield, and then the third year, SARS hit. If you may remember the SARS epidemic, and the Olympic complex area was shut down to anybody from outside for fear that the athletes would get infected. So we had to scramble, and there was a professional league in China, and I had made friends with their advisor, former minor league baseball player here in the States, and he got us into the professional stadium. And so our third year, we played in the Guangzhou professional stadium. By that time, we had 300 kids or something playing ball.
We're gonna need photographs,
Yeah, well, it's so we played there, and I'm very pleased to say that was 2004, and now we're 2016. They're still playing baseball in Guangzhou, China. So that's how that all worked in China.
It's not important. I was gonna ask about where'd the money come from? You didn't play.
Lori and I funded we funded the initial equipment, and then as we got started in China, that was all Lori and I. And then, of course, we charged per child. It wasn't much. We weren't making money, but enough to buy equipment, which was a real hoot. We bought from Chinese sources and American sources. We would, schlep uniforms over from the States. I used all minor league uniforms in Geneva, and I got that idea in China. So yeah, so it became self-funding. And then we moved back to Geneva, and the league had gone defunct in the time we were gone, and that was a shame. So in 2004, the fall, when we moved back, I resurrected the Geneva League, and then was the commissioner of the Geneva League for 5 years, and got that back up. And they had over 300 kids playing when I left.
Was it hard for you to leave China when you had so much involved?
Now, I knew that there was baseball
In your future?
in the future somewhere. So, man, my kids, to be honest, selfishly, it was all about Hannah and Bobby. I wanted them to grow up and love the game that I loved, and be able to read a box score, and be able to know how the game is played, so that if they came back and ended up ultimately going to university or living here in the United States, which they do, they would have an appreciation for this great game. So that was the genesis of this thing. But of course, I love kids. I love teaching. Yeah, I organize things, so it just fit.
How far did your daughter play?
I think Hannah played till she was 16. We didn't have enough girls to play in a separate league, so we didn't have girls. We did have girls softball in Geneva, but in China we just didn't have enough kids.
But
so
she played
hardball. No, hardball.
That's
She is
what I
a
was
wicked
asking.
first base woman. Nothing gets past Hannah. And she pitched. we threw everybody. We had Indian kids who came, it was great. The first day of practice every year in these countries, kids are putting the mitts on the wrong hands, and they don't know where to run. And I'll tell you, it's very gratifying because at the end of the season, it starts to look like baseball, So anyway, yeah. And Bobby was a pretty good ball player. And in the summer, Bobby came to Florida for, I think, 6 or 7 years to camps here. And he spent, I believe, 4 or 5 years with the Doyle Academy over in Winter Haven first, and then Lakeland at the Tiger Complex with the Doyle Academy. And he held his own. And we would come and watch him play, so it was great. It was great. And today, they're baseball freaks. So I feel good that the
I went
kids
to
love
a ball game one time with my daughter, and I went and positioned myself, and she was like, "What are you doing?" And I said, I'm seeing what baseball fans look like.
Yeah.
I mean, you can find yourself in lots of strata of society where there are no baseball fans.
Yeah.
It's just
for us, Mark, though, it was about baseball.
Yeah.
But, and this may sound corny to some, but it was also about being a great ambassador for the United States of America. And I really mean that. I'll give you one example. Volunteerism is a distinctly American thing. Okay, it's a distinctly American thing. I will give a lot of credit as well to the Brits, the Canadians, to that Anglo heritage, the Australians, but we volunteer for stuff here, like nobody else does around the world. And so I felt that we were ambassadors for this. We were ambassadors for the United States. We did parades, we gave out trophies, we had picnics, we had the opening ceremonies where they carried their team banners, at the beginning of the year. We had guest speakers. Maybe it was the consul general of the U.S. consulate in the city, giving speeches. We recited the Little League pledge. We didn't start with the Star Spangled Banner, or Pledge of Allegiance, or anything like that. Couldn't do that, but there was that benefit, and it was very telling because in the first year you'd see, getting coaches over there is tough, but we also taught Chinese how to coach baseball. So in year 2, we had Chinese coaches that a year before had never stepped on a baseball field. So we were teaching.
Getting coaches. You got coaches somehow?
From the community. No, from our community. They worked for Caterpillar, or they worked at the embassy, or they worked for P&G. But we also embraced local communities to try to help them learn about our great game, about some of our traditions, about volunteering. In most parts of the world, parents, they bring their kids to their sports activity, they drop them off, and it's basically a babysitting service. And they come back in 2 years, or two years, it seems like it. For some of those kids, it seems like, the younger ones, it seems like it, but they come back in 2 hours and they pick their kids up and they go home. We don't do that here, We go and we help, we participate, we coach, we lug equipment, and people need to see that out there. And so that was a big part of what we were doing as well.
I'm awesome. I don't know what to say. This is a fascinating story. This is what I thought could happen with videotaping and stuff. And you get in and you edit and you can't go wrong.
Yeah. No.
I just met this guy recently who was 10 years an usher at Fenway Park. Another guy wheels over here to City Island to try and be a bat boy, and he was when Jackie Robinson was here.
Wow, cool.
The stories are just out there.
Yeah.
And
No, I think it's a neat idea to put a collage together like this. And you see a lot of that kind of documentary type collaging going on now.
It's a natural. I have the daydream that houses will end up getting wired and you'll get together and edit something and send it to your friends or your relatives.
Well, we're already doing that, you know. I mean, this enables a lot of that, you know. And I'm taking video
but
here and sending
don't
it.
take advantage of it. That's more or less what I'm saying. Is that it'll just
Too busy playing Pokemon today.
I heard about that Pokemon thing.
I'm hooked.
Is that right?
Yeah, I'm hooked.
I have never played a game.
I'm level 20 already.
Is that a lie? Oh no.
It's not all bad. Lori and I, we're pretty active. Last Saturday, we were, I was riding bikes. She's out walking. You know, we came back, watched the Olympics, and at 3:30 we said, hey, let's go to one of the local parks and walk around for an hour and a half. And we did, and we caught a lot of Pokemon, and we saw a lot of people, and it was fun.
You did Pokemon at the park, or you
Did Pokemon at the park? Yeah.
People were doing it here.
Oh, sure. We had a Pokemon night.
Yeah, okay, that's
Oh, did you?
Yeah. And Lori will sit there. You know, when we're in Cincinnati, we're watching the Reds game on TV, and I've got this radio on, and we're listening to the Tortuga radio broadcast on most nights. Yeah. So, and then Lori's sitting there playing Pokemon on her phone. So it all
How
works.
is your radio team? Do they have previous announcing experience, or were they disc jockeys that got hired or got converted to?
Now these people, you know,
covering
we have
games
10
or-
full-time staff, and they all wanted to get into
10
sports
full
in
staff
here
in baseball? I mean-
in Daytona. So we have 10 full-time staff and then another 150 or so game day employees. So they all chose to get into sports management. Many of them have sports management majors or minors. Our broadcasting people, you know, they're a unique little niche. The communications people, they're in their own little interesting, weird communication world, and they want to be broadcasters. You know, Luke Morrow, who's our number one, wants
Their
to be
minor
Harry
league.
Carey. You know, this is
Yeah.
their minor leagues too, and that's part of the model here. It's tough because you turn over a lot of talent, but our job is to help them learn so that they can be, you know, George Kell or Ernie Harwell in Detroit, and Harry Carey
Why
or
not? Yeah.
Vince Scully. You know, that's what they want to do, and they're good. They're good. Last year, Tyler Murray was Florida State League Broadcaster of the Year. Big shoes to fill. And I told Luke this week, I think he's filled it very nicely. Which is a credit to Tyler and
Tell me how
As
you
well.
could have that public address officer. He's been in Daytona for as long as I can remember. Maybe I took him for granted one time, but I know it's been a long
he's
time.
a teacher during the regular, he's his real life,
Teacher.
and he's our public address announcer, and he's very good at it and loves to do it. His wife worked for years and still does for the Florida State League. Her father was the president of the Florida State League for years. So there is a baseball
This isn't Chuck
community.
Murphy we're talking
Yeah.
about. Oh,
yeah,
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So his daughter Laura is married to Tim, and it's a nice family setup.
I smell an interview.
Oh, you know, you'd get a great interview
That's-
from both of them. From
That's
both
great.
of them.
I
Yeah.
hope you'll vouch for me.
I will. I don't know where this will go, but
We don't
it's a
need
lot
to.
of fun, and you don't
That's
need to.
great.
You know, there's a documentary like this being made on scouts. And I don't remember the name of it. I have helped. I've contributed a little bit of money to help with many others to help them get going, but they're doing the same thing to give credit and proper recognition to the often thankless job of being a baseball scout.
Oh, I
So
thought you meant
Google
Cub
that.
Scouts.
No, baseball scouts. And I've seen they've done enough of it so you get a flavor for what it is. Google it, find it online. It's fabulous. And it's exactly what you are doing, you and Eric are doing here. So it's neat. I commend your efforts.
Scouts. Because I mean, what would that look like on a graph when Moneyball hit? You know, did they take a hit? Did they come back?
Who, scouts?
Yeah, scouting. Period.
You know, that's a great question, and I'm not probably the best person to answer it. But I would say this. When you talk to scouts in the stands, and you ask them what do they look for, they'll tell you the normal stuff that you would expect. You know, I look for a live arm, I look for control, I look for a fastball that moves, I look for command of multiple pitches, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But then they'll tell you, I look up here too. I look at their head. I look at their gut, players, not the physical gut, but
Yeah.
what's inside these kids? Are they coachable? Do they have a good attitude? And I would only guess that the Moneyball approach, of course, takes you just so far. And George Brett will tell you he wasn't the fastest, didn't have the best arm, and Pete Rose would tell you, you know, all of these guys. Mike Piazza was drafted, you know, umpteen hundredth, you know, whatever it was, right? But somebody saw something in Piazza, and somebody saw something in George Brett, and these guys were shepherded along because of something other than their arm. So, you know, the numbers only get you so far, you know.
Well,
so I don't know.
I
That's
mean,
where
I just wanted to hear something encouraging about the life of
Yeah.
scouting.
Yeah.
You know, because it's just
Yeah.
you think of it as being priceless.
Yeah. No,
So-
and they're fascinating. You want to talk about
So
stories?
you get to talk to some scouts here.
Let me just
You
go
get to
sit.
know.
Just go sit down with them.
How old are these people?
They range in age from 20s, late 20s maybe, into their 80s.
Late 20s scouts?
Yeah, oh yeah. Early 30s. You know, they're on the road all
Right,
the
right.
time. It's a tough life.
I just know late 20s is the surprise. to
Well,
me.
these are former, most often, I mean, that profile, I think, the people I've met, well, catchers, they're probably on the track to be made managers,
Yeah,
but, you know, I think they've got a baseball background, they love the
Yeah.
game, they want to
Okay.
be in the game. And by the way, it's their minor leagues too, you know, I mean,
Right,
you know, you
right.
start playing and then scouting and then you're into player development and now you're a player development director and then you're a general manager or you're assistant GM. So there's a career path for those younger folks. And then you've got a colleague of mine for years, one of my better friends at P&G, his uncle was Joe McDonald, he's famous, was the GM of the New York Mets, was the GM of the St. Louis Cardinals. I think it was the Mets and the Cardinals. And he's in his 80s. And he is the game and the game is him, and he scouts still. And I mean, we welcome him to Daytona quite often. So there's that profile too. You know, it's their life, it's their game.
Well, my daughter went to Rwanda for the Peace Corps, and she did 7 years of Spanish, and she actually did a semester in a Spanish university. And I saw how tough the path looked for being involved with law, because that was just the only thing you could do. To go the way she wanted, and I didn't understand it or know, but I thought there's so much opportunity in Spanish speaking.
Yeah.
I listened to the guy, I cannot remember his name, but he was all about that the Spanish kids are coming here and not knowing how to fit in.
Players.
The clubs aren't helping them. There's this culture shock. This was 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think it's changed a lot.
Yeah, sure.
But you know, Mark, you sparked an idea. I mean, there is no easy way, right, to get to where you want to go in life and in your career. You got to put in for most of us, you got to put in a lot of hard work in not maybe the best of conditions and not making the kind of money you want to make. And that's the way most of us get ahead. You know, we're not given anything. We don't expect it. I don't want to get too soapboxy here, but it's the same thing here. You know, these kids are working their tails off because they want to be major leaguers. These umpires out here are in the Florida State League because they want to be at Wrigley Field someday. Those scouts want to be a GM of a major league team, right?
I had to think about this Tim Tebow. I mean, I think these kids can play with Tim Tebow. I just think of him as this natural athlete. And on the other hand, looks like this big backlash that says you cannot storm the gates. You know, there's no way Tim Tebow can succeed as a baseball
We'll
player.
see. You know, this is America, so I mean, we'll see.
I'm all for someone.
I have
managing.
tremendous respect for
Michael
Tim
Jordan,
Tebow.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, that story.
Jordan made it run. And these people are naturally gifted athletes if they put the time into it. Sounds like Tim Tebow has, from what I think we've all read. There's some baseball people that say he's ready to play ball. So we'll see. Somebody's going to be very clever about beyond just the marketing aspect of it to give him a shot. You know, give him a shot. I'd love to have him down here contributing. So, and he knows it's not going to be easy. I mean, he knows he may end up in an instructional league someplace, or coming up from the bottom. I mean, nobody's going to sign him to a major league contract, and he's a professional athlete. He knows that. He'll work hard, and if he doesn't, he won't play.
We'll probably get a good documentary out of it.
Somebody will.
Sure.
I mean, if I had, I mean, I'd already have there are contracts in his hands already. The independent teams around the country have already sent him contracts. You know,
Okay.
They have the ability to do that. So they run the whole
Independent
show.
league.
Yeah, the independent league teams.
Okay.
They run the whole thing. You know, but man, I mean, I'd sign him tomorrow. You know, give him a 1-month contract and see what happens.
You've seen The Battered Bastards of Baseball.
I have. Wonderful, wonderful movie.
One of the great.
So Bob Richmond, who was the commissioner of the Northwest League when that was all happening, and he's in that video, he's in that movie, was one of the people I talked to early because of a connection to a connection to a connection to a connection. And I called Bob Richmond. I said, Bob, you don't know me from Adam. I introduced myself, told him what I was interested in getting into, and he spent 2 hours with me, hour and a half, talking baseball. Somebody else had said, I want you to call this guy. He's in Louisville, Kentucky. He's associated with the Louisville Bats, a guy named Gary Ulmer. Well, he owns the Louisville Bats. He runs the Bats. I called him. You don't know me, Gary. He spent 2 hours with me. You know, he said, hey, if you need anything, you call me. I mean, there is a really nice fraternity in the Battered Bastards of baseball. It was a fun story, and Bob Richmond, guys like that, were big parts of it.
I've got 2 books I need to read. One is, I think the title is St. Paul Saints, and the other one is Slouching Toward Fargo.
Oh, not
Both
heard of them.
minor leagues, stories about independent.
Interesting. Yeah. There's not a lot written about minor league baseball, at least in my research.
When I got tired of the Jackie Robinson. I've read so much of it. I found one about a guy he was a car salesman in North Dakota who had Satchel Paige pitching for him. He put together a team of black players that were, the conditions were horrendous for the Negro League, and he was getting these players to come up to play in North Dakota.
Yeah.
6, 7, 8 of them on a team each summer, and he did it year after year after year.
Mark, you've heard the old adage.
One photograph.
Yeah, that's a pity. But you've heard the old adage, if he builds it, they will come. You know, I mean, there's a lot to that.
Man,
there's a lot to that. Yeah, I wish we had a lot more pictures. You know, we don't have many pictures here of the old days. It'd be wonderful to have. I mean, I take a lot of pictures, so we got a lot of pictures from 14 to 50, and we. But
he did a Jackie Robinson video.
Nice.
Interviewing people.
We got the museum right across the street.
Yes.
And we did a piece about 3 or 4 months ago. Had a lot of people that were still alive here in town. Most of the guys in their 80s and 90s that were here that day or knew Jackie Robinson. It was very difficult to find footage or stills.
Yeah, right.
Really
right.
difficult.
Really, really hard. We only have literally 3 or 4 pictures over there, which that's a shame. So, okay, we start our history now. We start our pictorial history now, and 50 years from now, 100 years from now, they'll be using our photos and your videos. Cool.
Great,
Does that
Bob.
work?
Yeah, worked, didn't it?
Sure. I mean,
Right. Oh, look, we have something.
get out.
Oh, I didn't realize it's this one. This is a favorite.
Yeah, that's
This is
really
a favorite,
cool.
man. And I was adamant that I wanted them to be full size or nothing. And I haven't enjoyed this as well, I haven't seen it full size, but this is